Hi guys, this is the advisor and welcome back to my channel. Today I am feeling really sad over a case where an 11-year-old boy, Jovani Smith, he died while undergoing an operation to remove the foreskin from his organ. And he died at a medical facility, and it is so sad that that should happen. And after hearing the story in the media, I felt compelled to really come out and say something about this case because I personally feel that Jovani Smith did not have to die. He just didn't have to because it could have been avoided. And people may ask, how do I know it could be avoided since I haven't got the inside scoop on it? One, I'm not a family member. Two, I was not at the location, the medical facility where this happened, right? Nor am I medically trained, right? None of the above. Yet I'm here saying definitively that the death of this 11-year-old boy could have been avoided. Yes, you see, tragedies like this happen out of ignorance. When there are people who do not understand what they're doing and understand the reasons for doing certain things. Ignorance is what killed this boy, I feel, and I would like to avoid any possibility of this happening to any young boy again ever, and hence my making this video. So guys, just in case you may lose your child or run any risk of you losing your child in a situation like this is the video for you to watch. It is very informative and just might save a life somewhere across the globe at some time. The way the story is that Jovani Smith, who lives with his parents in, I don't know about his dad, but he lived with his mother in Clarendon, and they went to a medical facility in Portmore to have the operation. And while they were doing the circumcision, after it was completed, he was obviously under general anesthetics, and his heart stopped after the operation was completed. They just couldn't wake him up. Now, I am concerned about that. And his mother was there and she had to face that tragedy. Now, here is why I say that that didn't have to happen. But first of all, I just wanted to take a look at this photo. This is Jovani Smith, and this is him, a picture which I assume, I don't know for sure, but it appeared to be in a hospital garb, and he is getting ready for an operation. So I'm assuming that this picture was taken like minutes before the operation actually took place, and he was trying to smile for the camera. But believe me, no child, 11-year-old, who is going to face a knife that is going to disfigure his body would be feeling comfortable. But you can understand this little boy was putting on a very brave face. Now, I don't use the word disfigure loosely. I mean disfigure. And I would go further. I would say mutilate. This little boy was obeying his parents' orders while they took him to be mutilated by a doctor or some medical practitioner. For what? For what? Now, people may ask, no, isn't circumcision a good thing? Well, yes and no. Yes and no. Now, first of all, let's look at the pros and cons, right? And guys, stay with me here. But first, let me remind some of you who have been with me for over a year, you might have seen me put out this video. This video about the worst cut a man can get. And this is indeed the worst cut a man can get. And in that, I gave a lot of facts surrounding male circumcision. Now, I want you guys to, if you get a chance, because I won't be outlaying some of the methods that I put in that video, but I'm going to course around it somewhat here just to get people to understand. But this other video, you can go back and watch that because it is more instructional than this one. All right? So anyway, and that video came out last June. Anyway, here are the pros and cons of circumcision. Now, let's look at the pros. One of the good things about not being circumcised is that, first of all, the purpose of the foreskin is to protect the glands of the organ. The glands is what most people refer to as the head, but that's really the glands. Now, the foreskin is there to protect the glands for a reason. And the reason why it's there to protect the glands is because it is there to keep the glands moist. The glands has millions upon millions of nerve endings. It's one of the most concentrated set of nerve endings in the male body. Right? And that is what he used to get pleasure during intercourse. Now, once you remove the foreskin and the glands is exposed to air, once it's exposed to air and it's exposed to knocking against the underwear material, knocking against the skin and all of that, it becomes desensitized. And once it becomes desensitized, the male have 9 times less pleasure from actual intercourse than a man who actually has his foreskin. So it is less pleasurable for a man who has been circumcised than one who actually had his foreskin. Right? That's the first pro for not going through the operation. The second reason for not going through the operation is that the foreskin is actually a dry lubricant. Once the foreskin can be pulled back, what really happens is that when he is engaged or at the beginning of the act, once he goes to the lady and he pushes in, because the foreskin, once it can pull back, it will cause, even if she's very dry, even if the lady is dry, the fact that the foreskin rolls back, he can push forward and enter without causing her any form of discomfort whatsoever, because the foreskin rolls back and he enters easily and cause absolutely no discomfort, no matter how tight she might be. So the man's organ remains, the nerve endings doesn't become callous and calcified, and therefore he has less pleasure, and it protects the woman during the initial part of the act. So because of those two reasons, those are two things pro for having this part of the body stays on the body. Now, let's look at the cons. Let's look at the reasons for getting rid of it. And these are two good reasons for getting rid of it. Reason number one is that, you see, under the foreskin, the glands, sometimes things gather under there. Things gather under there that should not gather under there if the person don't know how to keep, the male doesn't know how to keep himself clean. You see, under the foreskin, it sweats. And the body releases oils from the skin because it is skin underneath, it is skin. So the body releases oils, the body releases sweat. Then there are skin cells, urine, and other fluids, like when you take a shower, whatever, and so on. It can accumulate underneath the foreskin. And if it does accumulate under there, while it is harmless, because when it is gathered under there, whatever sediment you see under there, underneath the foreskin, is called smegma. Now, smegma is harmless. However, the smegma should not be a build-up. It should be removed, or basically the hood should be withdrawn and the area around the glands washed thoroughly. At least once a day, preferably twice per day, every single day. That's for to enjoy ultimate cleanliness twice per day. The glands supposed to be washed when the HOOD, the hood, or what you would call it, the foreskin is pulled back. And once that happens, you're okay. Now, if the foreskin is not pulled back and all of that sediment remains under there, there are times, rare occasions, where in a young child it can become infected. It can become infected, but this is like one, I don't know, but based on what I'm hearing and my little research, it's one in every like 2,000-3,000 would get infected because of the amount of sediment that gathers under there. Because yes, bacteria, once you have that under there, it is a breeding ground for bacteria. Let's face it, it's a breeding ground for bacteria. And there are times it gets out of control if the person's immune system is not that good, and it can cause infection and swelling and bloated, and it can damage the organ, permanently damage the organ, right? But of course, that happens when proper hygiene is not followed, right? The other bad thing about having the foreskin is this: the man is easier to become infected by anything that a woman has. Why? Because any bacteria or microorganism that the lady has to pass on, it's gonna end up, once she's sharing body fluids with him, it's gonna go inside under the foreskin, go right round the glands, and once it's there, he can pass it on easily to anybody else, because under there will be a breeding ground for germs. Yes, and he can pass it on to other people. So it's easy for him to become infected. While with with a circumcised male, he has very little chance of passing on any infection to anybody, because it's extremely difficult for him to get infected, even with HIV. So those are good reasons. So most people with sense would say, then, all right, I will give up the little extra pleasure, and I will make sure that the woman is properly lubricated before I enter her. So I think the greater preponderance of benefits lies with being circumcised. And to some extent, you are right. But here's the thing: you can enjoy the best of both worlds. You can enjoy the best of both worlds without having to do the operation. Here is what: all you have to do is to make sure, pull back the HOOD and make sure that around the glands is properly washed at least once a day. But people should shower twice a day as far as I'm concerned. So you clean it twice per day. And once you do that, you enjoy the best of both worlds. It stays protected, it stays ultra sensitive, and you can use it for, in the same way for the lady, to ensure that she suffers no discomfort, it being a dry lubricant. So some may say, what There is a case where there are men who the foreskin cannot go back. It can't go back. What happens in that case? Well, let me tell you plain. Every single foreskin for every male on the face of this earth can go back. They can go back. It was made that way and it can. And what I would suggest you guys do, I don't want to keep this video long, so I will not go into all the instructions. Go back to this video, the worst cut a man can get, and read how to get it back. It can. There's a technique, and I've explained it there in detail from beginning to end. So I'm suggesting that what you guys do, or any parent, because what every parent should do, what I as a father had done, was to ensure that all my boys, I made sure that within months of birth, it was retracted. My boys have the best of both worlds. So I suggest that what you guys do is go back and look at that, watch that video, the worst cut a man can get, and you will see instructions clear from A, B, C, D instructions on how to ensure that the foreskin can actually pull back and how it is done, and everything is explained there. So what I wanted to do, because what we have to understand, is that this lady obviously meant her son well. And I can tell you that Yannick Morrison meant her son well. She's the mother of Jovani Smith, and she had no intention to hurt her son. And she obviously thought she was doing what was in the best interest of her child. And as you can see from this photograph, here she is hugging up, holding on to his picture, and you can see the look on her face. She is really, really devastated by his death. And then again, you can see beside her, supporting her, is her aunt, is Jovani Smith's aunt, Cecilia Davis. I suppose she's Yannick Morrison's sister. And she's there lending support. That's the man, the woman on the left, on Javan's mother's left. Now, I don't know who is the person on the right, the gentleman to her right. But he's in the photo, and he might be the father. I don't know. But if he's the father, then he obviously didn't understand that this didn't have to be done, and that it could have happened another way. But whoever he is, all of these family members were ignorant to what could have happened and how this could have been avoided. So I'm saying, guys, knowledge is power. And we should never, ever place our sons in this position that they have any need to do something like this, or to go through this pain and this sort of mutilation to secure their health or the health of the future partners they may have. Right? So, and one final thing. In a matter of, in a day or two, I'm going to be putting out a video relating to female circumcision. Yes, a lot of we in Jamaica have never even heard or even know that there's such a thing as female circumcision. Yes, a question was asked of me, and it was asked of me about in February, and I had responded to the person, but I did not bring the video out. Now I'm going to bring that video because I think this is an up time following right behind this, where people can understand what female circumcision is and how and what happens and what it does. And so, and there's a question the person was asking me. It was a man who was asking me. Let me give you a hint. This man was asking me about, he has a girlfriend who is from Africa who is circumcised, and he's wondering some things. He has some questions for me. And me, having had two girlfriends when I was living in London, Africans who were circumcised, I think I have some information I can pass on to this man. So if you have not yet liked and subscribe to the channel. Do so that when this video comes out, I want to bring it up maybe Friday evening or Saturday morning, you will be able to see the video. Just subscribe, hit the notification bell, and it's gonna come right up. This is where you come to learn, and that's what I'm here to do, to teach. All right, guys, like, share, leave a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks for watching.